Welcome back, everyone. And here we got Tom Wood with ASTECH talking about pavement preservation. The floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Yep. I'm going to need some help from the crowd because I'm one of these guys that can't chew gum and walk, let alone talk. And I have to click the computer and I have to click there. So if I get ahead on the computer there, say, hey, knucklehead, you need to catch up. So I need your help. See now? This is. So I'll let you read the top there as I talk about what pavement preservation is. And basically, pavement preservation is doing the right thing on the right road at the right time for the right reason. That's simple. I mean, there, let's see. Oh, this is really flicking confusing. So there's three classes of pavement preservation in my opinion. There's preventative maintenance. That's doing something to a brand new road to keep it new as long as possible. There's reactionary maintenance. That's dealing with a road that's got some issues, but it's in decent shape, and you're trying to. And then there's the one that gets overlooked as far as pavement preservation. I call it hospice. What hospice is a road that needs to be reconstructed or something major done within 2 or 3 years. But if you don't do anything, maintenance is going to be out there patching all the time. So what's the goal of hospice? It's to keep the patient safe and comfortable until the end comes. This thing about that, that's what we're trying to do with hospice in the road. We're trying to keep it safe for the traveling public and comfortable for the folks that are responsible for maintaining it. So you can use the same treatment on all three different classes of pavement preservation, but you need to adjust your expectations. So they talk about warranty chip seal. So you put a warranty chip seal on a good road, I would expect it to last 7 to 10 years or more. You put it on a hospice road, if it lasts a year, but you only need it a year, it's a success. But I've seen it so many times in my career, they will use a good treatment on the wrong road and say, well, it didn't perform, the whole treatment's bad. No. So, oh, no wonder you guys didn't get the joke with the hospice. I didn't throw it up there. Okay. So the next thing we look at is, and I'm just going to start looking at this, forget the computer, performance. So you look over on the right, we're going to mainly talk about surface treatments. We've got ultra-thin bonded wearing course, which North Dakota hasn't done any projects yet, but basically based on this research project, it's going to, on a good candidate road, it's going to extend the life of the pavement 10 to 12 years. Chip seals, this guy says 9 to 10 years. I can believe that. And then microsurfacing, use 8, 9 years on the low end there. And for you folks that are engineers and want details, BOB is bituminous over bituminous. That's a mill and overlay. BAB is bituminous over aggregate base, and BOC, which I don't think you guys have a lot of, is bituminous over concrete. And there again, depending on what your base material is, you need to adjust your expectations. Because if cracking's a big issue and you're going to do a mill and fill on a B over C, it's going to crack. So agenda, we're going to talk about ultra-thin bonded wearing cores, microsurfacing, and a little bit about chip sealing. So what is ultra-thin bonded wearing core? It's formed in a one-pass application of heavily modified, polymer modified emulsion tack and a gap-graded, highly polymerized mix placed with a spray paver. So here we're putting down polymer modified asphalt. It's normally CRS 1P. It's applied 1700 to to 22 hundredths a gallon per square yard. How many folks in here have ever tacked, traditional tack, that heavy? Think about it. You're getting 17 hundredths to 22 hundredths of a gallon of 50% residual asphalt down there. You got a membrane that's going to seal the surface. And it's applied right before the paver, and then it forms a waterproof seal. Strong bond. So here's just a picture of it. So it goes down normally 3/4 of an inch thick. Being the emulsion isn't broken, it's sprayed right in front of the mix and the paver. It wicks up. So if it's 3/4 of an inch thick, the bottom 3/8 of an inch is completely filled with asphalt. And you go, well, it's going to flush. No, it's highly polymerized. It's not going to flush. The top 3/8 is gap graded, so it allows the moisture to go down and hit. Now, the interesting thing about the mix is traditional hot mix has 8 microns of film thickness. This stuff is designed with a minimum of 12, so it's got 50% more polymer modified asphalt around the aggregate. So it's a tough mix. So here's an application. So you can see we're applying the tack right immediately in front of the mix. So that's just a brief overview. I'll tell you, I'm going to hire a different computer outfit next time. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about microsurfacing and slurry. If I'd known they were going to do this, I wouldn't have had any progression on my slide. It's a homogeneous mix of aggregate and asphalt emulsion. Looks like a Dairy Queen Blizzard or loose oatmeal. The slurry's air dry from the top down. Microsurfacing chemical cures from the bottom up. Will set and cure at night. What is the use of surface? It's used as surface treatment, rut filling, micro only. If you use a slurry and you put it more than 1 aggregate thick, it'll crust over in the top when it dries, and it'll stay loose underneath. When I was in South Dakota a couple of weeks ago talking, I said it's like walking out through the pasture with a bunch of cows there, and you see that paddy and it looks dry, and you step on it, it's not. And you know what happens? Well, that's what happens if you got wheel ruts and you use a slurry to fill wheel ruts. It'll crust over on the top. When traffic drives on it, it goes. So it improves friction. It can be used both on concrete and HMA. Here's just a picture of the machine. This was up here on 83 several years ago. You can see in this, whoops, I got ahead of me. I apologize. So you can see up on the screen that the mix looks a little bit like an oatmeal or Dairy Queen Blizzard. So some of the uses are ride improvement. I had a question out there beforehand when I was sitting there if you could use it in a city. This is a little city or town in South Dakota. It's a double chip sealed street with curb and gutter. They were waiting on the state to bring in a plant for a project that never showed up. And so they hired us to come back and micro scratch and surface. And we do a lot of little cities in South Dakota with microsurfacing. It's used in place of thin overlay. We've got a county in Minnesota about 15 years ago started using it in place of 1.5-inch mill and fills. Now the criteria on the 1.5-inch mill and fill was it had to be structurally sound. They were doing it just for cracking and for ride. If it's got structural failure, an 1.5-inch mill and fill isn't going to work, and microsurfacing is not going to work. You need to look at full depth reclamation or something more intensive. Used for ride improvement on cup cracks, rut filling. This is after we did a scratch course, and you can see I was in a rush. This is about 10 minutes 5-10 minutes after the machine went by, I wanted to get a picture because I got to get on the road. And at that time, I weighed about 290 pounds, and there was 3/4 inch deep ruts and size 9 shoe. You can see how well it's set up already. And a true microsurfacing, well designed and mixed with the proper amount of water, we like to be able to turn traffic, rolling traffic on it within 10 minutes. And here's the finished product. And then one of the deals, if you got a road, we get a lot of them in Minnesota and Iowa where they're bituminous over concrete, be overseas. And at the joints, they pinch up. Well, if you take microsurfacing or slurry and you try to smooth that out, being it's a semi-liquid, it doesn't handle a high spot there. It's like trying to finish drywall and have a nail stick up high. How's that work? So you come with a micro mill with 3 times the cutter teeth, plane off, 3/8, half an inch, whatever. Take the high spots off, the microsurfacing comes in, and it fills the low spots. They work like a hand and glove. Down in Iowa, almost all the state jobs are micro mill, microsurfacing. But there again, most of them are be overseas. Chip sealing, start out with this. Whoops, I gotta get it caught up. You're asking me to do 3 things at once. I should get double time. You're asking me to click and talk, and well, actually 4 and think. I'm going to have whiskey afterward. One thing, I'm going to not talk a lot about chip seal, but I wanted to mention that if you're having trouble with delamination on the stripes and the contractor suggests pre-treating the stripes, it works. And what a pre-treatment is you shoot about 1/10 to 12/100 of a gallon of whatever emulsion you're using immediately over the stripe, and before it breaks, another distributor comes and there. So, and I like the idea of warranty. We started working on them in '98, and mixed results. I think you're having better results. But in my opinion, the 2 places that snow plows attack a chip seal the most are the center line and the edge line. Where's the least traffic on a road? Center line, edge line. When you pave hot mix, where's the porous density on the first pass of paving? Center line, edge line. And what do we need to hold the chips on the road? We need asphalt binder. And what happens if the asphalt binder sucks down into the pavement? It's not there to hold the chip. Now, it's doing what we want. It's protecting the pavement. There. The other thing that happens is after you get done rolling your chip seal, traffic drives on it, and it needs the rocks around on their least dimension. Well, if you got no traffic on the center line or the edge line, they stand proud and the plows attack them. Enough sermon. So, updates. There's a MnDOT's got an updated seal code handbook available online. I personally think it's a good book. I helped write the original one, and my royalty checks have ran out once I retired. So, North Dakota has used RAP as aggregate for chip seal. I haven't heard anything negative yet. I can tell you as a contractor, depending on what your millings are, it can be a son of a gun to screen. So if you think you're going to save money by using RAP, maybe not. The big business, and of course you guys in North Dakota and South Dakota have been doing it for 100 years, using chip seals on lightly surfaced gravel roads. In Minnesota, it's finally starting to take off. I come from Illinois, rural Illinois, where almost all the county roads are multiple layer chip seals because we didn't know better. And then the last thing is scrub seal. How many folks in here have done a scrub seal? So basically a scrub seal is a traditional chip seal. Some places use a rejuvenating emulsion or a cut back. Oh, sorry about that. I'm going to get you one ahead. So rejuvenating there. I'm not a big fan of rejuvenating emulsions. Because if you come look at my hands, if there was anything that would rejuvenate a carbon-based compound, I'd be using it on these hands. The money would be keeping people looking young, not on the road. But anyhow, that's my personal opinion. So what a scrub seal is a traditional chip seal where you pull a set of brooms which force the emulsion, supposedly, down into the cracks. And it's followed by a traditional chip seal. Now, when I worked for MnDOT, I did not promote scrub seals. You know why? Because I wanted people to chip seal their roads early, 0 to 5 years. I didn't want them to wait until the road was all cracked to heck and say, oh, I can glue it together with a scrub seal. If I don't give you an option, you're going to do what's right, in my opinion. But anyhow. So, some issues with scrub seal. You can only put so many gallons per square yard of emulsion down and it starts to leak out of the brooms. Other issues in the city of Bismarck, a few years ago we were having some training with the Upper Great Plains. They gave me hell about how we were doing our scrub seals. Because we would pull up, run the broom empty, bring out another distributor with another broom. We'd back way back up on the fresh emulsion and take off and go. And the inspector said, well, it's getting awful messy looking. The other contractor would pull the broom out and run the broom empty, and then he'd match up with that and take off again. Well, when we went and looked at it a year later, guess what? Okay. A year later, we went and looked at it. Every place where the other contractor the year before had started and stopped, the aggregate all came off. Why? Because he'd unloaded the brooms and it took a while to fill the brooms back up. So, put this slide up again. That's probably 100,000 foot look at pavement preservation. We got about 3 minutes left, correct? So is there any questions, any comments? The main goal today was not to try to educate you, but to interest you, raise your curiosity so that you can go to some of the resources and find more information out. And one of the resources that's available as long as I'm alive is I'm available. But you got the Upper Great Plains Technical Group. There's a lot of resources out there. So, any questions? Yes, sir. I wouldn't have felt lonely if you didn't have a question.
Sorry, I'm really curious when it's come to the cost estimate for this 3 types of the maintenance. Do you have any cost comparison between these 3 treatment, like the ultra thin bond course with the chip seal and microsurface?
Well, okay, if I understood your question right, I'm hard of hearing. The cost, ultra thin on a decent sized project is going to be about the same cost as an 1.5 inch overlay. So whatever you're paying for that. Microsurfacing in Minnesota, I haven't got North Dakota prices. Scratch and surface is around $6 a square yard, plus or minus. I know in South Dakota it's probably in the low 5s because labor rate's cheaper. Chip seal in Minnesota, traditional chip seal with a fog seal, traffic control, everything, you're looking at around $3 for around that. So.
All right, thank you so much. That was the question.
And I can tell you on the ultra thin bonded, when it first came out in '98, I wasn't impressed with it, but I watched test sections over the years and I became impressed. And if I have a road that I didn't want a micro, I wanted a 10-year fix or a 15-year fix, I'd look at ultra-thin real hard before I'd look at a mill and fill, because that mix is so tough. It's like a highly polymer-modified SMA overlay. Thank you. Come to SAFNU, we're going to have fun.
Any other questions?
When you go to look at what type of surfacing treatment to apply to a road, what would you consider to be good condition indicators for each type of treatment?
Well, it's going to go back to the 3 categories of pavement preservation. For preventive maintenance, true preventive maintenance, I look more at age. You know, I paved it this year, and we've got a couple counties in Minnesota that, as part of the paving process, they put the chip seal on it. And my vice president was say, how come they're not doing any work? And I said, because they started that 15 years ago, and guess what? They got roads that don't need chip seal. And the ultimate goal of pavement preservation, preventive maintenance is to work yourself out of business, make the roads last so long they don't need you. It ain't going to happen. The interim one, you're going to look at ride, you're going to look at rutting, you're going to look at all different factors. In the hospice one, it's basically how much money am I going to spend patching this, because I got a reconstruct scheduled for next year or 2 years out, which in MnDOT 2 years out is usually 5, because the project's scheduled for 2 and it gets pushed. And so you got to look at that and you got to say, oh, I'm at the point now where if I don't do something to glue it together, my cost for maintenance is going to be higher. Plus, there's user delay and safety factor. Good question. Call me if you got one you question. I'll come look at it.
Let's give Tom a round of applause.
Thank you.